Okay, so before I start the report, I'd just like to explain the timeline of the story in case you watch my other videos. This trip and the next two acid ones I'm gonna tell take place after my second to last DPH trip report where I got caught, but before my final DPH ever report. I just finished all my DPH ones first because I wanted to get those out of the way so I could move on to stories about other stuff. But anyway, enough time had passed since I'd gotten caught that my parents were chill with me hanging out with my friends again. So the whole group, Tony, Isaac, Jade, and Isaac's brother Dean, were going to spend the night at our friend Doug's house for his birthday. And then the next morning, we were all gonna go to the water park that Isaac and Doug and me went to during my first acid trip. I was going to do acid, and Isaac and Jade were also going to do it because Isaac still had some tabs that he ordered from the darknet. And I was just really excited because it had been a really long time since the last time, and I was really excited to try a decent dose this time because last time I only did 30 UGs. We were also going to bring some other drugs too. Isaac was also bringing some edibles. Doug was going to steal some beer from his parents, and on top of that, Tony wanted me to bring him some of my Vyvanse. Though all I was planning on doing was maybe drinking a little bit since I've never had at that point in my life, and obviously trip. It's the day of, and I get up. I'm not feeling very well. I'm super constipated because I always was constipated around this time of my life. But despite that, I get up and get dressed and start packing. And the last thing I pack is the Vyvanse for Tony, and I put them in the side zipper of my wallet. And then my mom came in and wanted to see my wallet so she could put some money in it for me, and I hand it to her because I assume she's not going to open the zipper. She's just going to put the money in the main part, but she opens the zipper right away and finds them, and that was already a really shitty start to my day. But thankfully she didn't realize I was using them as a drug and just thought I was hiding them because I didn't like them for ADHD. So I didn't get in any trouble, and I texted Tony and he was like, okay, alright, I'll just trip with you guys instead, it's no big deal. So he got joined to the tripping roster because of that. And after that, I got driven to Doug's house and I was the first one there, and I had never been to his house before, and the first thing I noticed was it was kind of fucking disgusting. It was this really it was like a trailer park house, and it wasn't very pleasant to look at. I went into his room, which the fucking door was off the hinges, and he had to move it out of the way so he could go in. And when I went in there, the beers that he stole were just out in plain sight, and anyone who walked in would have been able to see them. And I called him an idiot and told him to put him in like an actual hiding spot, and he got really mad and argued with me like, dude, it's fine, like you're overreacting, like no one will see them. But eventually he reluctantly hid them in his closet. And after that I said happy birthday to him and gave him his gift and all that, and then we hung out for a little bit, and eventually everyone else showed up. We mostly just chilled until it was a little bit later, around evening, and once it was around that time, we decided we wanted to start drinking a bit. And fucking Doug, for no reason, went to the fridge and grabbed more beers out and clinked them together really loud like a dumbass, and then he brought them to the room with the other ones. And me and Jade and Dean were just sitting in the living room, but Tony, Isaac, and Doug were in his room trying to open the beers and get them ready. And while we're sitting on the couch, I fucking see Doug's dad start to walk into his room, and I know we're screwed and we're gonna get caught. And I tried to text them a warning, but it was just too late. He walked in and saw them, and he gets really mad, and Doug starts arguing with him, and I started freaking out because this is like the first time I hung out with my friends since getting caught the last time. So, and I think he's gonna end up telling my parents and get me in more trouble. So I'm legit like freaking out for a second. I'm like hitting my legs really hard. It's kind of like a mild form of self-harm, but I'm doing it really hard and it actually hurts, and like I'm kind of like panicking a little bit. But eventually I calm myself down, and somehow in that time Doug convinced his dad to not only not call our parents and get us in trouble, but let us stay over still. So after that, we all just tried to calm down and rested for a couple hours, and by the time it got dark, we decided that since we weren't going to get in trouble and we were all still there, that we wanted to trip and do everything else still. And looking back on it, that was probably a bad idea considering the horrible set and setting. But you know, hindsight's always 2020. Isaac got out his tabs and edibles and gave them to everybody who wanted them. And I put my tab on my tongue, and I think I was playing split screen with COD, or playing split screen COD with Doug and Dean while it was kicking in. And I remember Tony was already in his fucking swim trunks, even though we weren't going to the water park until the morning, because he said they were comfy and he didn't want to have to change tomorrow, which was really funny to me. But he put his on his tongue too, and Isaac and Jade put theirs on. And I just rested for a bit, and like 30 minutes later it started to kick in. And the visuals, I started to get visuals, but they weren't how I really thought they would be just from hearing about acid. The added colors and stuff were way more synthetic looking than I imagined they'd be. And although it was really cool looking, I can't lie and say it wasn't a little disappointing. That's something I actually don't like about acid, is how synthetic it looks and feels. But at 10 minutes after that, it hit me like really hard, and the room was spinning, and I was getting some kind of crazy visuals, and I didn't really know what was going on. I think Doug kept falling asleep and waking up. He might have been faking it, but it might have been real. But either way, it was freaking me out a lot. But other than that, I don't remember too much for a while, because it was just really intense. And all I do remember are visuals I don't really know how to describe well. But eventually, it did calm down, and Doug asked me if I wanted to go out on his front porch with him for some reason. I don't know why the fuck he did that, but I was like, sure, I'll do it. I want some fresh air or something. So I went out and I talked with him for a second, but while I was talking with him, I noticed there was just a steak knife laying on the railing of his porch for some fucking reason, and I impulsively grabbed it and just started stabbing it into the railing like a fucking madman. And while I was stabbing it, like, the knife would leave tracers. And after I stabbed the railing, I just turned to him and I stared him blank in the face and I said, I don't know why I did that. I'm not mad or anything. And he started dying laughing. Oh, but after that, we talked a little bit more and then went inside, and I got resettled again. And I think we wanted some just chill background music, so we put a lo-fi hip-hop live stream on Doug's TV in the living room just for some background music. And fucking, I think a little bit after we did that, Tony said he thought the lo-fi hip-hop girl was hot, and he asked us if he could jerk off to her or something because he was horny. And this sounds super weird, but my friend group was kind of like gross and was just used to people doing that at sleepovers, and so we really didn't care. We were just like, yeah, you can if you want to. But he started like thought looping, and he was like he just kept asking us if it was okay and like asking us for clarification instead of starting. He was like, dude, is it okay? Are you sure? Are you sure I can? And we kept telling him it was, but he didn't like stop asking, and we got really annoyed with him, like, yes, dude, stop asking, just do it. And eventually Doug had to take him to his room so he could do it in private. And I think Doug said he put on the lo-fi hip-hop live stream in there for him too, and he finished in there, and so he fucking jizzed into his swim trunks to the lo-fi hip-hop girl. which is just amazing. It was just fucking hilarious to me. But I think after Doug coming to his room, I got up and went to the bathroom. Because I was still really constipated at this point. I was constipated like the entire night because my bowel health was just really bad back at this point in my life. And I wanted to try to poop, so I get up and I try to walk to Doug's bathroom, and it's a fucking task and a half because the hallway to it's really dark, and once you get there, like, there's kind of like a drop to get into the bathroom. But eventually I get in there, and the first thing I did was look in the mirror, and I don't know how to explain this properly, but I looked really weird and feminine and gross, and I really didn't like how I looked I didn't really like how I looked, so I stopped looking at the mirror immediately and got on the toilet. I tried to poop, but I couldn't, so I just sat on the toilet for a second and I watched the tiles on the bathroom floor because they were like morphing and warping. But eventually I got up, went back to the living room, and Tony was back. He'd finished by then. So I said hi to him, and then I think I talked with Dean. And Dean was on some of the edibles Isaac brought, and that was the first time he had ever done any drug in his life. So I was just asking him about it, like, oh, how is it? How are you feeling? Etc., which was pretty chill. And after that, I talked with Jade and asked her how her trip was going for a bit. And she was saying she was seeing some like weird shit like monsters or something. But I don't know, that was weird. But after I finished talking with her, I think we mostly just chilled and listened to the music on the live stream and talked. And eventually it was a lot closer to the morning. And the next thing I remember is another weird jerk off. Cause my friend group is, especially back then, was gross, and we just like kind of normalized jerking off in front of each other. But fucking Doug says he's horny and he wants to jerk off, so he gets out his fucking 3DS because he didn't have a phone, and when he didn't want to use his computer to look at porn, he used his 3DS like a fucking 12-year-old, and he fucking looks up like big black dick fucks tiny teen or something like really like generic like that, and then fucking Tony and Isaac grab it from him and they start looking at the video, and they're tripping like really hard, so it's like really weird to them, and they look so fucking bewildered and the faces they were making were super funny. But then Doug took it back and started doing his thing, and it was really awkward because he was just doing it in the living room in front of everyone. And to make it worse, as soon as he's about to finish, his mom burst into the living room and he had to put everything away in a panic. And I started dying laughing, and Doug had to like make awkward conversation with his mom and try to hide what he was just doing. It was insane. But after she left, I think we put on some anime for a while. And the first thing we watched was ReZero, which was super weird and trippy to watch on acid, but it was really cool, and I was enjoying it a lot. And I think after we watched a couple episodes of that, we switched to watching High Fury, which was fun, but by that point I wasn't paying as much attention to it. Not as much as I was to ReZero, and I was mostly just talking with everyone. I think by that point, me and a couple other people said that we were starting to come down a bit and feel more sober. Tony fucking invented a new word and called us sober tins, because he's like, no dude, I'm still as high as I was before, like you guys are just fucking sober tins, you don't understand what I'm talking about. And it was really funny because it's not a real fucking word, but we started using it after that and like saying that a lot in the friend group because it was funny. But by that point it was fully morning and I wasn't feeling very well. I was still constipated and I was running on no sleep and just exhausted, so I said I wanted to skip the water park and just go home. And after I said that, everyone else agreed with me, but Tony kept arguing like, no bro, dude, it'll be fun, like I know you guys all feel like shit, but it'll be really fun. But I couldn't, I didn't have it in me. I was drained by that point, so I called my family to come pick me up, and then my brain was melted and I was like, yo Doug, can I take a shower? So then I went in there and I decided, actually, I don't want to take a shower. Doug, can I get some coffee instead? Because I was trying to think of something to wake me up, and I was like, I don't want a shower, I want coffee instead. So I went back and he made me some coffee, and I drank that, but I think that just made my stomach worse. I should have taken the shower instead. A little bit after I had my coffee, my dad came and picked me up, and I went home, and I was still tripping kind of hard. I was trying to fall asleep, and I was looking up on the ceiling from in my bed, and I have like popcorn ceiling with the like patterns and shit on it, and it was moving like a lot. It was really trippy. But eventually I crashed and I fell asleep, and I woke up late at night still feeling pretty shitty, and I mostly just hung out for a couple hours until I went back to bed. And the day after that, I woke up feeling mostly okay. Everything finally being over and me being able to relax. And overall, my first strong acid trip just wasn't very good. It was a horrible setting and a horrible set. Thanks to Doug in his gross house. And I was constipated and felt shitty physically most of the trip too. But despite that, I still am glad I had this experience because there were some good parts, and even though it wasn't the best experience, acid is an amazing drug, and I feel lucky to have been able to experience it. So yeah, thank you for listening to this story. It's been really nice to talk about, do a trip report that's not DPH. I have a lot more coming. I have a lot more acid ones and some other stuff to talk about, so be on the lookout for those. Goodbye.